For me, the two most important things of being in the kitchen and cooking are the ritual of it and sharing it with people. One, I want to share my culture, and two, I want you guys to eat well.
My name is Nadia, and I'm a Brooklyn-based artist, filmmaker, and the host of Sahtain. I use art, food, and healing spaces to redefine what it means to nourish ourselves. As a Palestinian American living in diaspora, I connect to my roots through our cuisine. There are many others like me who grew up far from our ancestral lands. You could call us third culture kids. The scents, tastes, and unique memories made in the kitchen ground us and connect us to each other. Come with me on a journey of remembrance as we explore third culture kitchens and the plant allies that bring us home. Lentils are packed with nutrients and carry infinite possibilities. They've long been considered the poor man's protein because they are so economical, but that's what makes them magical. Their depth is easily accessible. For Zeina Zeitoun, recreating her family's traditional lentil dishes is a source of joy, connection, and the ultimate self-care.
The different lentils, each color lentil does something different when you cook it. It's not all the same. I have 5 bags of lentils in my closet right now. You can make anything, to be honest, with them, and I feel like it doesn't take that long to make a lentil-based dish. So that's what I really liked about it too. It makes me feel warm. I think that's the number one feeling, is I feel warm when I eat and when I cook it. When I succeed in making these dishes and when I finally get to taste what I have been making, it definitely has grounded me. When you're brought up with all of these recipes and you're watching the women in your family usually making these recipes, and then you do it too, and it's great. It's this is who I am. This is something I'm really good at. It was kind of like most stories. They had to leave Beirut because of the war. I think they came to Virginia because my dad's brother was here already. We've been there ever since. I was kind of the first person to move away from Virginia, which is kind of ironic because I'm the youngest of 3 daughters. So I was definitely the one that observed the most, and that kind of developed my love for just trying different things and making the recipes that we were brought up with. This tastes like the way that my mom makes it.
How did you relate to being Lebanese, and what did that actually mean to you?
Being Lebanese definitely has to do with trying to grab something that's not in your reach, but you think it is, and you don't know what you're trying to grab, but if that makes sense. Lebanon was about family, and it was just about making sure that we don't lose those connections, because my parents, they always found that really important. I was the one in the family that everyone knew how much I loved going, and if I didn't go that year, they would be like, what? First memory that I had of being in Lebanon was my grandma's old house in Freiha, which is a little village in the mountains. My family's so huge, but it all comes right back to my grandma because she was queen of everything. I wake up and hear the roosters. It's where you take naps in between every single meal, and there's flowers everywhere, there's gardens everywhere, there's chickens, and there's cats everywhere. So it's definitely kind of the place where I feel more at peace. The beginning of my relationship with Beirut starts with my dad. He was the one who took us by the hand. He was the one who showed us all the places in Beirut. He was the one who took us to falafel, and he was the one who brought us juice. His love for the sea is why I love the sea so much. As much as I love it now, and how I feel when I'm there and the things that I do when I'm there, I would definitely want to time travel back to how it kind of used to be, strolling around on the streets with my dad, holding his hands, just eating ice cream. Those were the days. Whenever I take out my camera and document things, it's because I don't want to forget that moment. I've definitely been digging into those recently and just creating things with them just because they just so happen to be beautiful, because Beirut is beautiful. I first noticed that, we were different because of the food I would bring to lunch. Definitely different from everybody else, definitely smelled different. I was definitely embarrassed about it, but I was also so excited that I was having what I had for lunch. The senses are such a form of time travel. It's insane, you know, smell and sight and listening. Sometimes when like those motor scooters pass by the Brooklyn streets, I listen because it sounds exactly like Beirut streets, because that specific type of like motor sound makes me feel like I'm home, you know? I saw this parking meter on the street and there was a weeping willow type tree that was kind of like flowing above it. And for a split second, I thought I was in Beirut. For some reason, it just gave me that feeling. And those are the things that I look for in a day-to-day. Random things that happen to everybody, but they're ingrained in my head. Not even my head, but like my soul, like my heart. They're just never gonna go away, which I love.
I feel the exact same way. Like there are certain streets and places in Brooklyn where like there will be a scent of shops and I'll hear a bunch of chatter and people talking and I'll feel like I'm walking on the streets of Amman. And it's a very trippy like woo moment where you like get sent back. And no, I live for those moments.
I have an interesting relationship with lentils because when I was a kid and my mom made usually like lentil-based dishes, mjaddara or hadas Muhammad, I wasn't a huge fan of it at first. If I heard that my mom made mjaddara that day, I'd be like, oh, okay. Now I love it. Like now I make it at home. It's so packed in iron, and that's something that I always need. I'm always tired. I've been anemic on and off. Lentil soup is something that I always go towards. If it's like on a menu, I'm just like, I'm gonna get it. You feel like you have a lot of energy after you eat it. Hearty and healthy, and it makes you feel good and it makes you feel warm. Adas Hamud, it's like, I haven't made it in a while, but I've definitely been thinking about it a lot ever since like we started talking about lentils together. But I think I might make that this week actually.
Ahlan wa sahlan bikum and welcome back. Today we are working with our dear friend, the lentil. So in my conversation with Zeina, we connected over our love and connection to lentil soup growing up. And there are so many ways we can use lentils, but today I really wanted to bring it back to basics and show you how I would make a lentil soup with a few fancy little additions because naturally. So for this lentil soup, we're going to be working with red lentils. There are so many different types of lentils. I really love working with these because split red lentils cook really quickly and they are just a really pretty color and they go well with all these beautiful warm things we're going to have. The special element that we're going to do is some roasted cherry tomatoes, which we're going to put whole in the smooth soup. So the first thing I want to do is get those roasting so they're ready when we're finished. I have these gorgeous little vine tomatoes already on the vine, and I mean, if you can get something like this, it's so cute, it's extra fancy. We can just put our tomatoes still on the vine right on here. I'm gonna get a few of the other colored ones just because they are pretty and we love colors. So for these, all we're gonna do is drizzle some olive oil and a pinch of salt. Roll them in it, make sure that everything's coated. We're gonna put them in the oven at 400 degrees for about 15 minutes or so, just until they blister and become kind of mushy and roasted and delicious. Honestly, roasted cherry tomatoes, game changer for a lot of dishes. Really big game changer. So, in these go. So the great thing about this soup is that all of it can come together in one pot. So I've already chopped up half an onion. This is the other half. It's a very big one, so I just used half of it. And I just roughly chopped it. You don't even need to cut it this much because we're going to end up blending it in the end, but the smaller the pieces, the more quickly it can all come together. I also love to put in a carrot. I actually have some really lovely colored carrots here, so I'm going to put one orange one, one purple one, and one little yellow one, because I can. I'm just gonna roughly chop them. You can make the pieces bigger if you want. I'm gonna make them smaller so that it comes together a little bit more quickly. By the way, if you end up buying carrots with these lovely carrot tops, save them because you can make a pesto out of them. And I have washed these carrots, but I haven't skinned them. I like to leave the skin on, especially if they're organic. I also have some garlic, naturally, which I have peeled, and I'm just going to leave whole because, again, we're going to be blending the soup up smoothly, so I don't feel the need to chop them up finely. Those can stay with these as well. And this can start coming together already. So I am going to start heating some oil on the stove and get these in there so that they can start to soften and cook down and just get a little bit browned before we add the lentils and let everything simmer together. I turn the flame on to a medium heat. We're going to put in some oil. Once the oil warms up, we're gonna go straight in with the onions, the garlic, and the carrots. So these vegetables don't need to cook fully, but we do want to start browning them a little bit before we put everything else in, because yes, we could just cook them in the liquid, but we're adding another layer of flavor by browning them. So I'm adding a pinch of salt, which will help draw out the moisture from the onions and from the carrots, help them to cook faster. While those are starting to cook down, I'm just going to prepare my spice mix, which I'm going to put in with them. So I have my pestle and mortar here. Again, at this point, if you have a favorite 7 spice you like to use that. I'm gonna keep it simple today, just using cumin, cardamom, and black pepper. I really like a lot of heat in my soups like this, so I'm going to add a pretty solid heaping teaspoon, 2 teaspoons of black pepper pods. Do it to your taste. There is no exact measurement here. Especially with this kind of cooking, it's very intuitive. I'm going to put 1 cardamom pod. I'm gonna just open it up and put the little seeds in my pestle and mortar. And what really brings the warmth and the heat and just the hominess to this is cumin. So I'm gonna add 1, 2, 3 good pinches, maybe a couple of teaspoons of cumin. This is all going to be mushed up together. I really love grinding my spices in this way. It's honestly just fun and very pleasant. Woo! Once your spices are well ground, you can add them straight into your onions, carrots, and garlic. So we'll just let those cook down a little bit. In the meantime, I'm going to chop some tomatoes, which we're going to add in as well. Yes, we're going to add tomatoes into the soup as well as topping it with the whole roasted cherry tomatoes as well. So these you can really roughly chop any way you like. I am just going to probably quarter them. You could also use a can of diced tomatoes or whole peeled tomatoes if you would like. I always like to go with fresh if I can, because then you just get to smell this. Like, how beautiful is that? Once the onions have become translucent, we can add in our tomatoes. So I'm just gonna pop these right in and serve them along with everything else. So for this, I'm going to be using red lentils, as I said, but I also am gonna experiment with using some split mung beans. So mung beans are incredible for the digestion, as well as lentils. So together, this is just going to make a really beautiful hearty soup. Maybe 1 cup of mung beans to about 3 cups of red lentils, just the ratio I'm working with today. And I've rinsed and washed these very thoroughly to get rid of any dust or dirt. These have drained, they're hanging out, they're ready to go. Once the tomatoes especially have released a lot of their liquid like this, and you start to get these little sticky bits at the bottom of your pot that you need to scrape, that's when it's a perfect time to add your lentils. And then we will add our stock or broth. I'm going to be using a vegetable stock. If you have a bone broth that you'd like to use, that is also great in this. It will really, really fortify the dish. But if you don't have any of those things and you just want to put water, that will also be delicious. We are adding a lot of spices to this, so we are incorporating a lot of flavor. But if you want to add that extra layer of nutrition, use a broth or a stock. Now, the amount that you want to add is really dependent on how thick you want your soup to be. You might find that you need more at a later point, but these kinds of soups are really forgiving and flexible. So start with an amount of liquid that covers your lentils. Bring it up to a simmer, and we're gonna let this simmer for about 15 to 20 minutes until the lentils are cooked down and thick. But really at this point, all we need to do is let it sit. Let's check on our tomatoes, which have been roasting in the oven for about 15 minutes. Oh, yep, that's it. My lentil soup is done. It did not take very long to come together. It is very thick. She is very thick. And now, just to finish it off, we are going to blend it. I love using my immersion blender. This is honestly one of the best kitchen investments you can ever make. So we're just going to blend this up till it's very smooth right here in the pot. Now, this soup is not yet complete. It's very important now to add lemon. So this is a very warming, very, I would say, round soup. But adding the lemon gives it the tartness and the acidity that it really needs to shine. I'm telling you, this is very, very important. Do not go eating this soup without a squeeze of almost a whole half a lemon into your own bowl, because that acidity is really what's gonna make this shine. It cuts through the sweetness of the carrot, it lets the garlic come through, and just really makes the soup so much more punchy and impactful. But then, we get to top it with our delightful umami pockets, these gorgeous roasted tomatoes. And these are just gonna be a very beautiful, sweet, sour kick. Oh, that's so good. So warm, so comforting. And you may be asking why we have green onions on the side. That is a snack for every other bite. It just brings it all together for me. So here, a very beautiful, very classic lentil soup in my style. Let us know how you make lentil soup, because I know that you have your own way in your house. And let me know the different creative ways that you like to use lentils. As we spoke about with Zeina, there is so much you can do with lentils. They really can just turn into so many different things. Get creative. Lentils are inexpensive, they're plentiful, and our bodies really do enjoy them and do enjoy digesting them. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for being here with us, for bringing your energy to this space and letting us share this recipe with you. As always, alf sahtain, and we will see you in the next one.